I'm really honored to be a part of the Leapwing Signature Plugin family. To follow Al Schmitt is quite an honor. So I'm really proud that we have a series of plugins here that you can use just like you can use the Al Schmitt plugin. I've been a fan of Leapwing plugins for a while. I think the root one might have been the first one that I encountered, and I loved that for, harmonic content was really strong. But the one that I gravitate towards all the time is the stage one. I'll use it on reverbs to get them extra wide, delays to make them pop out in the chorus of a song, background vocals or synthesizers to maybe take the center channel information down a little bit and spread them extra wide. That's a go-to plugin for me. Well, what I wanted to do is give you a starting point. So it's pretty simple. You put the plugin in, you select the instrument, then you have a choice of a couple of different styles of music, and you can tweak from there. The parameters in every style of music and every instrument are a little different. There's things like EQ, parallel compression, even channel overdrive that might simulate the way you'd push a console. The drive function sometimes can feel like driving the preamp a little harder on a console, and that alone can give you a great sound before you even touch the compressor or equalizer. So there's a lot of options within every preset. Let's start with the kick drum. Always seems to start with the kick drum, so let's start with the kick drum. Once you have the plugin in, the first thing you're going to do is select the instrument, in this case the kick. Then you can go over to the preset. You can select from a different style of music. So you can select funk, rock, pop. They're good starting points. They'll also have the same parameters that you can tweak, but it's a good place to start from. I'm going to start with heavy rock kick, and let's just hear how that sounds. And already that sounds like a pretty healthy kick drum. Maybe I've taken out a little too much lower mid. Maybe it's a little too clicky on the top end. I want to tailor that. Maybe I want a little bit more punch to it. So I can increase the drive. That's kind of like increasing the preamp line gain on the channel strip of a console. Right there, I can get a little bit more tone in the kick drum. Then I have the option of tweaking parallel compressors. I have a real long release, heavy compressed one for sustain. I have one that gets me a sort of overall tone in the smooth parallel. And then I have one that gives me power. So you have a lot of options inside each of these presets. We can just really quickly switch over to the pop kick drum, see if that's a better starting point. Very different tone. Maybe a little too much on the top end in this case. Maybe we want to take out a little bit more lower mid on this one. So it's really easy to sculpt to taste. Let's add a little bit more length to that. That's pretty good. Every time I'm mixing, or even tracking for that matter, I always have a secondary compressor that's in parallel with the main source, and I'm blending that in to give me a little bit more tone, a little bit more power, a little bit more length to the note perhaps. So you kind of look at it like every sound source almost has two sources, the natural uncompressed, but then a secondary one that maybe is heavily processed. And the great thing about that is when you're blending those two together, you get to use the natural shape and transient from the original sound source, but you blend in the altered, perhaps heavily compressed parallel, and you balance the two of those together, and you come up with a sound that's much more natural and much more powerful than had you just put the compressor in the insert of the signal. You get a bigger, more natural sounding tone. Within the plugin, there's several parallel compressors that you can blend in for every source. In this case, for drums, there's one that gives you more sustain, one that gives you more tone, one that gives you more power, one that's a little more round and natural, one that's pretty spiky and aggressive. Then you combine that with the EQ and the overdrive of the preamp. There's a lot of things you can do within each preset of the plugin.